Let's look at dividing mixed numbers. We might be asked to solve this problem here of 3 1/3 divided by 2 1/2. This is very similar to multiplying mixed numbers, where we wrote the improper fraction of each of these mixed numbers. 3 1/3 as a improper fraction is 10/3. 2 1/2 as an improper fraction is 5/2. And then so we have this, two fractions, 10/3 divided by 5/2. And we know when we are working with a division problem involving fractions, we keep the number we're dividing the same, and then we multiply by the reciprocal of 5/2. The reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5. 10/3 times 2/5. If we go ahead and reduce, we've got 5 there, which becomes a 1. This would have been 2 times 5, and then so that's why this here is a 2. So we end up with 2 times 2, which is 4, and the denominator being 3. Putting that back into simplest form, that there is 1 1/3. So 3 1/3 divided by 2 1/2 equals 1 1/3. Here I'm given another problem. You'll notice that I have 3/4 divided by 2 1/2. Since this is just a fraction here, 3/4, I just write it right in there. Divided by 2 1/2, I'm writing 2 1/2 as a mixed number. 2 1/2 as a mixed number is how many halves? Right, 5. We go 2 times 2 plus 1 to get 5/2. At this point, I can go ahead and write this division problem as a multiplication problem. So I write 3/4 times the reciprocal of 5/2. The reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5. If I go ahead and use common factor approach to simplify this, 2 becomes a 1, 4 becomes a 2, because that was 2 times 2, and then I can finish solving my problem. 3 times 1 in the numerator is just 3. 2 times 5 in the denominator is 10. And then so I can write my answer where it belongs. Read that whole number sentence with me. 3/4 divided by 2 1/2 is equal to 3/10. Here's another problem where it is that I am given two mixed numbers. And so I will have to find the improper fraction for each of those mixed numbers. 1 2/5. I know that 1 whole is already 5/5. Putting it together with 2/5, I get 7/5. I'll still write divided by. 3 3/8. I know that each whole is worth how many eighths? 8, right. So 3 wholes is worth 24/8 plus 3/8 is 27/8. I rewrite this now as a multiplication problem where I have the inverse, or the reciprocal, of 27/8, which is 8/27. So this is just the product of 7/5 times 8/27. I don't see any common factors that I can use, so I'm just going to go ahead and multiply it out. 7 times 8 is 56. And 5 times 27 is, let's see, 135. And 56 135ths is in simplest form. So that's our answer there. Please try this problem. Go ahead and copy it down. Hit pause. Express your answer in simplest form. For 4 3/4, what did you write for that improper fraction? Did you write 19/4? For 2 1/2, hopefully you wrote 5/2. Now, we rewrite this as a multiplication problem. 19/4 times what? The inverse of 5/2, or the reciprocal of 5/2, which equals 2/5. Multiplying those two together, you have 19 times 2. Before I do that, I'm going to use a common factors approach. 2 becomes a 1, 4 becomes a 2. 19 times 1 is 19, and 2 times 5 is 10. That equals 1 and 9/10 as a mixed number. And I can go ahead and write that right there. I know 1 and 9/10 is in simplest form because of my common factors approach. Let's review. We have the problem 2 and 3/7 divided by 1 and 1/3. And when we are working with mixed numbers for a multiplication or a division problem, we write improper fractions for any mixed numbers that we see. So we have 2 and 3/7. We're going to write a sevenths number for 2 and 3/7. What do we write in the numerator? Think, think, think. Right, 17. We'll keep our division sign. What do we write in our numerator? We write a 4. Now we're going to do what with this equation? We're going to rewrite it as a what? Multiplication problem. Which of those stays the same, 17/7 or 4/3? Right, 17/7. What do we do with 4/3? We find its what? Reciprocal. And then we just multiply. Before we do that, we see if we have any common factors. I don't see any. We'll go ahead and multiply. 17 times 3 is 51, and 7 times 4 is 28. What's our last step? We have to do what? Simplify is right. 28 goes into 51 one time, and it'll have a remainder of 23. I'll show my work over here. 4 minus 2 is 2. Remainder is 23, so I have 23 28ths. So my answer is 1 and 23 28ths. So again, that's how you figure out your answer when you're dividing mixed numbers. So the first step again is to go ahead and write out improper fractions for any mixed numbers that you see. And then you rewrite it as a multiplication problem, where you use the reciprocal of the number that you were dividing by. Last step is to simplify. And that's your approach.